Bruce Mayrock, the 20-year-old American student who died protesting during the Civil War on May 30th, 1969. Mayrock set himself ablaze in front of the United Nations headquarters in New York, desperate to draw the world's attention to the atrocities of the Nigerian Civil War. Before his passing, O.G.B had confided in Bianca.
May your soul rest in peace. Biafra will never forget your effort, and Biafra will never forget you in her history.
Bianca O.G.B, Nigeria's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs and widow of the late Biafran leader, Dim Chukwuemeka Odumegwu O.G.B, has fulfilled a decades-old promise by honoring Bruce Mayrock, the 20-year-old American student who died protesting during the Civil War on May 30th, 1969. Mayrock set himself ablaze in front of the United Nations headquarters in New York, desperate to draw the world's attention to the atrocities of the Nigerian Civil War. Before his passing, O.G.B had confided in Bianca his desire to immortalize the man. Now, 13 years after O.G.B's death, Bianca kept that promise. She built the Bruce Mayrock Memorial Building, a 3-story edifice with a memorial hall, exhibition gallery, and conference center. She also launched the Bruce Mayrock Memorial Foundation, which empowers youth through skills training, entrepreneurship, leadership, and peace building. Bianca described the project as a tribute to courage and a lasting reminder of the power one voice can have against injustice. Dr. Abati, over to you.
Okay. 51 years after the end of the genocidal, fratricidal civil war in Nigeria, 1967 to May 1970. I think it's refreshing, it is enlightening, it is instructive to see that the memory has not faded. And this is what Nigerians must realize, that memory is something that is very important as part of our collective heritage. And what Mrs. Bianca O.G.B is doing is to remind us of that part of history. Now, so this Bruce Mayrock Memorial Building is to remind us of that history. It's supposed to be a memorial building that records the history, iconic moments, and also pay tribute to this American who sacrificed himself in protest against that fratricidal war, in which over 100,000 troops died, over 2 million people were displaced. On a daily basis, over 10,000 persons were killed, and a lot of persons also suffered from malnutrition. Children, particularly. We talk about Gaza now. In Nigeria, between 1967 and 70, we had a similar situation where many children died for no reason, for a war in which they were completely hors de combat. So this is about memory, this is about history, this is about a museum that will provide education for generations to come. So I think it's a commendable initiative. But what is more important here is about Mrs. O.G.B's loyalty, commitment, devotion as a widow. One of the last wishes of Dim Odumegwu O.G.B was that he would like a memorial building to be built in honor of this gentleman, Bruce Mayrock, who engaged in an act of self-immolation in identification with the people of Biafra. Now, some widows are merry widows. Once their husbands die, they just break off. But this is Bianca Odumegwu O.G.B respecting one of the last wishes of her husband and showing that even in death, she's a very faithful and loyal wife. In Nigeria, even some wives, when their husbands are alive, they are disrespectful and they are disloyal, and they don't even, hold the institution, serious. So this must be a message to all wives, to all persons in the institution of marriage. And I think that Ndigbo will be very proud of Mrs. Bianca Odumegwu O.G.B. It's not just Bruce Mayrock that she's paying tribute to. She's also paying tribute to her husband. She's paying tribute to the cause of Biafra. She's also paying tribute to our collective history. Because whatever may be the circumstances today, it's not a part of history that we should wish away. It should be a sober reminder that no country can survive 2 civil wars. And that's why the major concern of every Nigerian should be peace and unity. When we remember the Biafran history, all of us should live together. What are you talking about? Is it the war in Kwale? Is it the war in the genocide in Asaba? Is it the, the malnutrition and the crisis that Nigerians face?
Bruce Mayrock is 1 in a million who choose what is good rather than evil, who choose right rather than wrong, who choose the way of humanity rather than putting on the garment of animals. And I will assure Bruce Mayrock that wherever he is, his history will never be forgotten. Biafran people will never forget your effort, and your legacy will remain forever. And I want to say something. It is always good to be good. I think for the first time I have agreed with Dr. Abati. He spoke so very well here. And I think if things should be done the way things should be done, everybody will be at peace. I think really nobody hates each other. But what we've seen here is that politicians are trying to divide the people by all means, because that is how they can survive. The fact is that Biafrans will never forget the genocide committed in her land, committed against her, until the right thing is done. It is true that we say people have history and we are not different from others, but the difference here is treatment. Different here is the reflection. Different here is inability to fulfill your own promise. And now I am now talking to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which at the end of the genocide, they introduced what is called 3 R's: reconstruction, rehabilitation, and whatever they call the third one. However, the point is that inability to fulfill that word is what is causing mayhem and lack of economic growth in the country. And I will argue, and I will continue to argue, that the Igbos are the only true Nigeria in Nigeria. And my reasons are, it is only an Igbo man who will live southeast, the so-called five states of Igbo people, who will leave that part of the world and go to another region in that same Nigeria and invest, build mansions. Example, if you go to Lagos State today, 60% of modern building in Lagos State belongs to Ndi Igbo. If you go to Abuja today, 60% of modern buildings standing in Abuja belongs to Ndi Igbo. So what we are calling for is justice, equity, justice for all, freedom for all, equal rights and justice. Nothing more, nothing less.